What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Hey, Ballbusters, Bates here with your friend and mine, Ray Mungus, and we are Gunn tonight on episode 32, Way of Life Live. How's it going over there, man?
It's going all right. How are you?
Exhausted, a little cranky. I didn't have my nap today.
Yeah, I'm feeling it today. I could have definitely slept a little bit. I just want a new body. Like, work's been killing me. But beyond that, not too bad.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing I didn't take a nap today. I've been taking naps the last couple of days because I've been up all night gaming. So then it's screwing up my sleep schedule. So now I'm not getting to sleep until like 2 a.m. Getting, I don't know, like 3 hours of sleep and then going to work. So it's just been this vicious circle that I'm going to be able to at least break tonight.
You know what's so weird about that? The fact that I'm going to bed early this last week. Like, I think the earliest I laid down was 11 p.m. and then conked out around 11:30. And knowing my sleep schedule or my former sleep schedule, that's kind of nuts.
Yeah, that is not like you. Should I be worried?
I maybe I'm just still catching up from the last drive-in. I mean, that could possibly be it, but I don't know. It's been like I've been depriving myself of sleep for so long that I'm just like, hey, you know, it would be a really interesting idea if I actually slept before I had to go slave away at work. You know what I mean? And it's not working. The weird part, I feel better and more energized when I'm on 3 hours of sleep and facing an 8-hour day.
Yeah, and I actually worked late today. I didn't leave work until like 5 o'clock today because I was trying to get something done for tomorrow morning. And knowing that I only got like probably 3 hours of sleep last night, I'm not hurting as bad as I thought I would be. So, I mean, I had a Red Bull at work, so that sort of helped me out.
Yeah, I had to rock the Monster earlier because I just was not getting moving this morning. I basically hated everything about the day, and I'm like, I need energy or something harder, and there's a liquor store right next door, so. Yeah, I hear you, man. I got my Spider-Man print today. Oh, nice. The Gray Matter art one, right?
Yeah.
How's it look?
Oh, it's gorgeous, despite me not being very happy with Marvel at the moment. It's pretty.
True. I feel you on that.
Thankfully,
yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, thankfully, I actually already had a frame in nearly the perfect size for it. I mean, it fits it doesn't take up the entire frame, but it takes up like 97% of it. And it's just such an odd shape. It's like 13 by, I don't know, 27 or some weird ass freaking size. But as I said, thankfully I already had something like that, and it fits pretty good.
Yeah, I've been purging some of those posters. Not to get into a long poster rant, because you know how we go when it comes to artwork and stuff. But I've been like trying to get rid of some of the oddball size ones because, you know, if you can't find a frame or at least one that you can work with as far as matting everything and at least make it half-ass look good, it generally costs like upwards to $100 to frame something. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to frame something that's like 27 inches by 8. You know what I'm saying? Like as beautiful of a print as it is. I'm not going to get it framed unless it's autographed or something crazy.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend $100 to frame a print that only cost me $20.
Pretty much. I just got rid of a Halloween print that I really, really liked. It was a nice I think it was Chris Garofalo did it. I forget the company that he runs right off the top of my head, but basically it was a nice glow in the dark Halloween print, and when the lights were out, you saw a silhouette of the butcher knife heading down to the Strode house. You know, and it was really, really nice, but such a weird shape poster.
Yeah, I still have one. I have a 12 by 24 that I cannot find a fucking frame for at the moment.
That's the worst, man. Yeah, and even if you get like an 18 by 24, it still look really weird in the frame.
Yeah.
Like oversized with huge matting, and that just doesn't look good.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it's only one of those, like, those retro-looking gray matter art Marvel ones. I got it in one of my mystery tubes. It's of the Punisher. So, I mean, it's not like even something I'm desperately trying to get hung, but I would like to frame it and put it somewhere.
That exact reason is why I didn't pick up the Deadpool version of that.
Yeah,
I've been eyeing that Deadpool one for like 2 years now, and I was like, it's gonna cost me way too much to frame it. It looks better at on their end of the table.
Yeah, no, it's just a stupid size, and I don't like it. Well, I'm sure I'll find a frame at some point. I mean, I went to Michael's, and I couldn't even find a frame in Michael's.
Yeah, that's pretty much when you know you're screwed. If you can't find one over there, you're done for. Time to whip out the credit card or get rid of the print.
All right, so let's get into what's going on tonight. This week is Shark Week, so
it is.
Merry Sharkmas. I don't know what to say, but for any of you Shark Week aficionados out there that need all your shark fixins and all that good stuff, check out deadentertainment.com. I actually did some Shark Week articles this week. I did a Shark Week themed Deadbeats, and I also did a promotion piece for Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast, their episode this week. They interviewed the Jaws 1, 2, and 3 screenwriter Carl Gottlieb, and I have to say it's an amazing interview. They do about a solid 45 minutes on Jaws. A lot of cool stories from behind the scenes. A lot of cool stories about the cast, about who the cast might have been. So if you guys are Shark fans and Jaws fans, definitely go on iTunes or Stitcher and download this week's episode of Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast. You will not be disappointed, I promise.
I believe we link it in the article, which I just posted in chat, so definitely check that out. You're leaving out the best part about this article.
I don't know.
They showed you a little love this afternoon on Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, yeah, they did.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the podcast was actually the social media manager, whoever runs the social media page for the podcast, had retweeted the article and showed some love for it. I think he said something nice about it. I don't remember what.
So I guess it wasn't the best part then.
No, it was nice. I just don't remember what they said.
Let me see if I can get to it. Too many animated GIFs in our chat.
I know. I am going through like 30 of them right now. Like, what the fuck?
Real Gilbert ACP. Thank you, Dead Entertainment Site, for your great write-up on this week's GGACP episode with the Jaws screenwriter Carl Gottlieb.
Yep, and then Gilbert Gottfried himself retweeted it out. So that was pretty cool. It's actually not my first retweet from him, but it wasn't my account. It was the Dead Entertainment account. So, but still, it very cool of him.
Yeah, I mean, like, Twitter's not the biggest thing in the world, but it is kind of neat that, like, you grow up on his comedy or his films and things like that, and then, fast forward X amount of years later, you just happen to catch a podcast of his that you like, write a little something on it, and he's showing a little love back. And I don't know, it's really unique for me. It's interesting that it kind of comes full circle like that. We're doing our thing, he's doing his thing, and for a moment we crash courses for a second, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, it's like my favorite podcast right now. So, if you guys like stories about old Hollywood, please check it out. Support that podcast. It's great, great stuff. And we are planning, possibly, on doing our next live commentary this week. It was originally planned for this Friday, but I have other plans that I really can't cancel lest I face the wrath of my sister. So I kind of can't do it Friday, but we were tossing around the idea of doing it Saturday afternoon so that a couple of our European fans and supporters have a chance to hang out and enjoy it with us. It's not set in stone yet. We're still kind of working out the details, but once we know, we will post updates about it.
Yeah, I basically sent out a couple messages trying to figure out everything, and I'm still waiting on responses for possible guests and, co-hosts and things like that. And hoping it works out because, it's been a certain amount of time since the last live commentary, and you kind of get that itch after a little bit.
Yeah, well, no, technically, if you count the fucking 9 movies we binge-watched.
I'm trying to forget that. So, the last commentary we did was for Cannibal Ferox, and that was a fun time, and it's creeping up there in views. Like, people are watching that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't get it. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, I know. Like, of all ones that we've done, like, we've done some pretty popular movies and shit like that, and here we are we're at 687 views on that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, for a great movie, we had a fun time doing it, talking about it, and hopefully these viewers stuck around and checked it out and gave it a listen.
Yeah, they're all Ricky fans. That's what it was.
Well, who isn't at this point? He's in every Italian movie.
they all came for Ricky.
Exactly. Oh, I like that. I like that our episode title is a hashtag on YouTube. It actually works like a hashtag.
Oh, does it?
Interesting. Yeah, I just saw that.
All right, that's pretty cool. All right, so let's get into it. We've rambled on enough for tonight. And like every week, we start this week with horror news.
It's all horror fiction, still a screen addiction. Cinematic gore and murder, it's horror fiction, not a fact prediction. Movies cannot make you a killer. It's
All right, so I called this one. I fucking called it in my article a couple weeks ago. But Shudder has officially announced that Joe Bob Briggs will return again this year. In what capacity, we do not know. Obviously, it's going to be another hosting gig of some sort. I highly doubt it'll be another 24-hour marathon. God, I hope not. But I would not be surprised if it's at least a double feature.
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to go next at this point. Maybe, with Halloween coming up not too long from now, it'd be a good opportunity to, I don't know, throw a couple movies, maybe 3 movies max. Hopefully not in the 24-hour marathon, but I think that would be the next best step in the evolution of whatever this is going to be. Personally, I thought it was really cool just to be randomly scrolling Twitter and seeing Shudder say, that due to overwhelming demand, we're bringing them back later this year. So that's a good feeling. It felt like that whole communal experience that we did, our broadcast and everybody watching it live and watching it on demand and shit like that. It got to that point where we actually made a difference in this, and our voices brought this back. So I thought this was pretty big win for all of us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without a freaking doubt, man. The fact that this event went off so well, I mean, not without its issues, but fans responded to it in such a ridiculously positive way. It would have been just downright bad business if Shudder didn't capitalize on how great that event was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just like, see the facts, fix your servers, and then make it happen. That's all they really needed to do after that.
Yeah, it's you find you know where you went wrong the first time. Don't make the same mistake the second time, and you're gonna have something special on your hands, no doubt about it. It looked like Joe Bob was having a lot of fun with it, even though he used to always go off on rants, but he was kind of going off on some really weird rants and tangents this time. But I'm just going to chalk that up to old age, and it almost made it more charming at that point.
Yeah, definitely. They were more entertaining, and you're just like, okay, he's on a path somewhere, and my brain can't wrap my head around like trying to figure where he's going to end up. And then where you think that he's going to end up, where you like finally pinpoint to the destination, he makes a U-turn, goes the opposite way, and lands on the like most random of endpoints. You're just like, okay, that was a really long story to get to that moment. But I'm glad that I took the journey.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way he's always been. So I'm glad he didn't really lose that characteristic and that kind of quirkiness about him.
Yeah, but add in the crazy stories he's telling this time, and it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah, it's like those. It's like those. It's like having one of those crazy old grandpas that's like the sweetest guy in the world, and he's just sitting there and telling you stories, and you're like, I think you're lying, Grandpa.
I actually felt the same way about Betsy Palmer when I met her. It was such a weird situation. It was like meeting a grandmother that I never knew, but she also killed people in Friday the 13th. You know what I mean? It's a weird situation, but I got that same vibe from Joe Bob.
Yeah, it was brought me back, man. I gotta say. So we don't have any information about when and again to what capacity he will be returning, but at this point, that's all we need to know is that he will be returning. And I'm going to rub it in everybody's face and say, I called it.
And hopefully we'll be returning too. Pending it not being a 24-hour marathon. Even if it is a 24-hour marathon, we'll pick a handful of movies, maybe like 3 of the random movies, or just throw a dart at the board and land on a certain time, come on in and hang out and watch them.
Yeah, if it's 24 hours again, you guys can go kick dirt, 'cause I am not doing that again.
Maybe we'll just live tweet, what I mean?
That was my last fucking drive-in, alright?
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Alright, moving on. So, new season of American Horror Story apparently is taking us to the apocalypse. So is that going to be some type of indication that this is the final season of American Horror Story? Your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to be. It's such a popular show, and with the producer, I'm losing his name, Ryan Murphy, I think is the producer's name. But with him moving on to some other television programs and things like that, I don't know how much room he's going to have for American Horror Story. I don't know if it's potentially his last hurrah, because in this season it seems like what they're doing is finally taking all of the separate stories and pulling the strings together. There's always been kind of some sort of Easter egg connecting the series together, despite them having stories that were completely unconnected. So this one seems like they're finally tying all the loose ends, pulling it together, and bringing the entire story together, coming full circle, as it's going to be connecting the very first season, which was titled Murder House, and I don't recall what season this was, but it was Coven. I want to say season 3, season 4, something like that. And what they mean by apocalypse is at the tail end of the very first season, the baby that's, the pregnant mother or whatnot that had the baby at the very end, and they kind of like brought back the whole Rosemary's Baby situation, and it was the Antichrist that was birthed. So maybe now that we've had X amount of years to go by, we're in a situation where that baby is now a child, maybe a teenager or something like that. I'm really not sure where the story is going to be going, but the whole idea of them connecting the two is kind of interesting.
So do we have any details on what exactly this season is going to entail?
Everything I just said. Now they're bringing back a lot of characters that are fan favorites. They're keeping a couple things kind of hush hush. There's a couple things that we've kind of uncovered or possibly uncovered via a couple of our news articles where they have some blocked out cast members in some cast photos. So we're thinking that Jessica Lange might be returning to the series. Not confirmed. Don't quote us on it, but that would be absolutely huge if it was. If you haven't seen American Horror Story, Jessica Lange was basically the character that she appeared in every single season as a different character, but she was the glue that held the entire story together. You know, she was an incredible actress. She left the season maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, or left the shows 2 or 3 seasons ago, and it almost feels right now that they're tying these two stories together and bringing everything full circle for her to make her return.
Any news about like fan favorite characters returning, like Twisty?
I don't know if he's going to be back, to be perfectly honest. If Jessica Lange returns, I'm not great with character names, so my guess is she's going to reprise her role from the very first season, which was incredible. It was pretty much the role that set the entire tone of where these stories were going to be taking place and how they were going to be presented and everything like that. Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure if there's any other fan favorites aside from shit, I'm terrible. I should have all these articles open in front of me. But the one of the main characters in the Coven story, she's going to be returning. Emma Roberts.
Gotcha. Do we have a release window?
Yes, it's going to be coming out on FX September 12th. Last couple seasons, they minimized the season a little bit. It felt like a few seasons in there, they went on a little bit too long for their own good. So they're kind of condensing the seasons, cutting out the fat of the show, and really hammering the points home. And the previous seasons have been pretty good. There's been an improvement, but you know, now that they're getting back to the stories that kind of like sucked us into the show, I think we're heading in an interesting direction. At least if this turns out to be one of like the final seasons or the final season, it's going to go out on a pretty big note.
Very cool. It sounds like American Horror Story fans got something really cool to look forward to in about a month and a half.
Big time. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm sure once the season gets released, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody is going to be doing weekly reviews on the episodes for the website. Maybe.
Yeah, I've been looking to integrate some of that into the website, because it's like one of the only things that we don't do, which is really weird because it's pretty much commonplace for weekly reviews of television shows, things like that. But I'm hoping to actually get that. This way we could get some of that TV content in there.
Indeed. All right, moving on. So for all you ballers out there with them deep pockets, Capcom revealed the Resident Evil 2 Remake Collector's Edition bundle. This puppy is going to run you about $200. And what are you getting for that $200? Well, you are getting the deluxe edition of the game, which includes, obviously, the full game in a special fancy deluxe packaging, right? And an extra DLC pack card, which I'm sure is going to give you free access to whatever DLC they release for the game in the coming months after its release. You get a 12-inch Leon Kennedy figure, modeled after his new model from the game. There is a 32-page art book that contains photos and files documenting the events. After the Raccoon City tragedy and all that good stuff, they're calling it Ben's Files. And for anybody familiar with Resident Evil 2, Ben is a character from the game who was a journalist who locked himself in a jail cell to kind of protect himself and then died horribly. You also get a digital soundtrack. It's going to be a voucher code for a 25-track album featuring some new songs from the game and arrangements from the original game. And I love that soundtrack. One of my favorite soundtracks. I don't know if I like it as much as the original game, but Part 2 is that's a great soundtrack. And you get a RPD renovation design poster, a diagram reminiscent of blueprints. This poster illustrates how the building was renovated and transformed from a museum to a police facility when work was being done on the building in 1969. So you're getting some pretty cool swag, which you better for $200. I mean, that is a lot of money to drop on a game. But this is a game fans have been barking for a long, long time. So the makers know that these people are gonna open their wallets and spend $200 like it's nothing.
Yeah, I took a look at this collector's edition, and my initial reaction was, wow, it's pretty standard collector's edition fare. And I haven't bought a collector's edition of a game since like Grand Theft Auto 4, and I think that ran $150 if I recall. And I'm just looking at the original stuff, and I'm just like, wow, that's, you know, compared to the pricing of, you know, like the standard game and things like that, it seems like a hell of a dip. But then you look at this statue, and you're like, okay, any Resident Evil fan is going to want that. And, you know, if you price statues and things like that, and how fast these things sell out, you know, that statue alone is going to basically pay for this entire thing one day. You know, like, those things only go up in price, and they become more and more rare, more and more sought after. And what better of a game for you to dip in this much money and potentially have a nice little investment on your hands? You're not gonna have buy a dream home with this Leon Kennedy statue, but you know, you could easily make your money back and have the full experience of this game when it comes out.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a big fan of these deluxe editions, but I don't poo-poo them either because they're popular. Fans love them. Fans buy them up, and you do get some cool, unique stuff. I've missed one or two deluxe editions of games where you get a figure of some sort or a plushie, and then you just can't find those things anywhere. And then if there is somebody selling them, they jacked it up just that single item to more than what the deluxe special edition version cost altogether. So pretty much, if you're a big Resident Evil fan, a big Resident Evil 2 fan, start saving now and go ahead and get this deluxe edition. Otherwise, you're going to regret it when you decide, man, I really want that Leon Kennedy figure, and then you go on eBay and it's selling for like $250 by itself.
Oh yeah, big time. And the only light at the end of the tunnel is not exactly something that's great, but for some games, after the fact, whatever country produced these bonus features, sometimes you might find quote-unquote knockoffs of them a lot cheaper after the fact. But those statues, probably not. So this is definitely worth your time. My only thing is I wish they would just move away from the standard. Here's a poster. Here's a CD soundtrack. here's an art book. Like, I have a handful of art books from games, and I browsed them when I first opened the package, and they're just sitting on my shelf. Like, I'm never gonna do anything with these things again. The music's kind of cool. The digital code. Hopefully, there's a cloud somewhere that you could keep it forever if you lose it. But yeah, I wish they would add a little bit more to woo me in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, what else could you really expect? I mean, you're getting a figure, you know, you're getting the soundtrack. Everybody likes a good soundtrack. You're getting a poster. Everybody likes a little art. What more could they offer?
To be honest, I can't even tell you that right now. It's just when you hear
Then
collector's
stop
edition,
complaining.
when you hear collector's edition, you know exactly what you're going to get. The surprise is, the whatever statue or thing, whatever the main thing is. That's the only real surprise in these things anymore.
What would have been really cool if they released like a remastered edition of the original Resident Evil 2 in the deluxe edition.
True.
That would have been cool.
I agree. I think that would have been interesting. But then there would have been purists versus the newbies and all that. So we'd have like a little infighting going on in the community. But
oh God, you're gonna have that You're gonna have that anyway when this game comes out.
Valid point.
Same thing when the Final Fantasy VII remake comes out. There is gonna be a shitstorm on the internet. I may avoid the internet for like 2 weeks after that game comes out. Man, I can't even imagine the hell that will break loose at that point.
Yeah, well said.
Alright, so if you got $200, I say drop it. I don't think you'll regret it. I think you'll enjoy this little deluxe edition. It'll be a nice little collector's piece you can show off.
If you have $400, hit up Mungus on Twitter and just buy me one. That would be cool. No big deal. No pressure.
No. Don't buy it from. Donate it. Donate
it. Yes, I like it. Good thinking.
All right, moving on. So Scream Factory released. They announced a ton of new Blu-rays coming out. They announced all these during their Comic-Con panel. So,
yeah, lots of them.
Some good ones too. So, what are they releasing? We got 10 to Midnight. Not a movie I'm overly familiar with. I just never really got into Charles Bronson films. But they are releasing a collector's edition of 10 to Midnight. A pretty cool collector's edition of Candyman that comes with let's see. An 18 by 24 rolled lithograph of the new Joel Robinson art. Joel is that's really cool for Joel. Joel's actually a buddy of ours. And an 18 by 24 poster, an alternate slipcover with an entirely different design from artist Laz Marquez. That's pretty cool.
Those posters have been pretty much like key to these releases. They always have some really great art. Recently, Joel's been doing most of the Scream Factory art.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty amazing. It's awesome to see the dude. I own plenty of his prints. From meeting him down at Monster Mania so many times, and it's just really cool to see him take that next step. I'm sure he's taken it before. I'm sure he's done plenty of work that I'm not aware of, but seeing him consistently work for Scream Factory is amazing. So I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, I got a bunch of his pieces too. I got a Jason piece from Part 4, and I know I have a Vincent Price piece he did. So I have some of his art. He puts out some really, really nice art.
I gotta look up the year. I think I met him the first time was when I met Nick Castle, because I had nothing good Halloween to get signed at the time, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go to the vendor room and frantically look for art, and boom, there's his Michael Myers piece, and I was like, okay, there we go, there it is.
Next on the release slate is going to be a collector's edition of The Craft, a pretty popular movie. I dig it. I'm a fan of that movie.
Yeah, same here.
Next, we got the entire Critters collection, which is 4 films. And let's see. You're getting a 28.5 by 16.5 rolled lithograph.
I love finding a frame.
Yeah, that's freaking weird. Which is also designed by Laz Marquez. And this is another limited quality. This is only 1,000 of those. Next, we have Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Collector's Edition. They're all Collector's Editions. I'm done saying that now. Everyone from here on in is a Collector's Edition. It's got an all-new film transfer on that one, which is pretty cool if you're a fan of the Hammer Dracula films. Let's see. You want to take the others?
Yeah, I guess. We have a collector's edition, spoiler alert, of Obsession, which is a Brian De Palma film. I've never seen it, but I've heard really, really good things about it. I believe Joel Lynch sings praises of that film. Saturday 14th is coming out finally. I don't even think it was available on DVD, but it's finally getting a Blu-ray format release, which is pretty awesome.
I've never seen that.
It's bad, but it's good at the same time. It's really goofy, really, really cheesy, but it's one of those movies that you caught on cable as a kid, and then spent the rest of your adult life trying to explain it to people because you forgot the title of it. And that was one of those movies I had to figure out what it was called as I went through conventions and things like that. But it's worth checking out, that's for sure. We got next up Screamers, which is a sci-fi thriller starring Peter Weller. Not familiar. Single White Female, Bridget Fonda movie. Jennifer Jason Leigh's in it. We got Silent Night, Deadly Night. That one's probably going to be a
part 2.
Yeah, part 2. Sorry, that one's going to be a popular one. I got a little excited there because of the whole Garbage Day line. That movie's probably been one of the more sought after, really terrible, bad type of movies. I think it was available in kinetic collections and things like that, but to get the Scream Factor treatment, you're basically you're never going to need to own another copy of it. Okay, we got a Mick Garris movie, a Stephen King. It was basically a Stephen King book called Sleepwalkers. That was a decent movie, if I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was probably one of the more, the last of the original films that I've really seen at the time. That was one of the last ones that came out, and I was like, okay, Stephen King, his films aren't usually done too well, so I kind of gave up on him for a little bit. But not a bad film. Starman is coming out, a John Carpenter movie. You got to check that out. Urban Legend is going to be another collector's edition. Never seen Urban Legend.
You're not missing anything. It was the same. Basically, it was a movie trying to capitalize off the Scream popularity, and it's a movie in the same vein as I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, that's what I figured. There was way too much of that at the time. Once Scream hit, it was just one of those situations where every single horror movie that came out was basically kind of a knockoff, mostly a knockoff of it. Never really got into it. And to follow Urban Legend, you got Urban Legend's Final Cut. I want to say that's the sequel. Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so don't care about those. And that completes the San Diego Comic-Con list. But the interesting thing is, as if that wasn't enough money for you to be shelling out in the next year or two, recently they announced a metric ton of movies leading up to this announcement of more movies. I'm going to run through them really quick without too much fanfare. We got Brain Scan coming out, Someone's Watching Me, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, Return of the Living Dead 2, Night of the Demons with that really awesome Angela figure, Creep Show, Trick or Treat, not the Aussie one, the good one, House on Haunted Hill, The Wasp Woman, In the Mouth of Madness, which is fucking incredible, and Exorcist 2, The Heretic. And I was writing these things down, and there are probably another 15 movies that are coming out within the next year or two from Scream Factory. And I was like, you know what? This list has to end. We can't talk about Scream Factory all night.
What was that second movie you said?
Someone's Watching Me.
All right, no. What was the first movie?
Brain Scan.
Brain Scan. If you guys have never seen Brain Scan, that is a really fun movie. Back when Edward Furlong wasn't a drug addict, he was like a still of an up and coming actor. I'm not sure if this was after or before Terminator 2, but regardless, it's still a really, really good, really fun movie. A little creepy, and some great character acting in that movie. So if you guys have never seen or even heard of Brain Scan, definitely seek it out and give it a watch. It will be well worth your time. You'll like it big time.
Yeah, I think I watched Brain Scan with you at one of the early comic conventions that we did.
Probably. I love that movie.
It's such a fun movie.
All right. So I think we've done enough plugging for Scream Factory tonight.
Want our check, damn it. I wish.
I was about to say that.
Of course you were.
Let's see. What else we got? We got some new comic news.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. Very interesting stuff.
So, for any Fright Night fans out there, you will undoubtedly recognize the name Peter Vincent. He was a character in the movie. Basically, he was playing he was playing like a Van Helsing-like character, but he was just a big old fraud in the movie. It was a cool little subplot of the movie. Well, we are apparently going to be getting a comic series based on him.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting to me. I'm wondering how this comic is going to take place exactly. Is it going to be like within the television show? Like, are we getting his stories that they were watching on his television show, or are we getting more tales from Fright Night?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like is it going to be a prequel or a sequel? I think a sequel would be more interesting because I think we would see more supernatural elements. But I think a prequel could be fascinating, but they would have to do it in the right way.
Only problem with the prequel is none of it actually happens, and he is a host of the television show. He stars in movies and things like that, so we'd be following the stories of his movies. Now if it's a sequel, it could basically expand on the universe of like the whole life imitating art thing. He was a vampire hunter in his show, so once he found out in actuality that vampires were real, we could follow those journeys, which is kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll be getting more information on what exactly this comic series is going to entail very, very soon.
Yeah, Tom Holland is just like teasing it little by little. I think the first update he wrote about it was a tweet back in March. One other thing that's cool about this is that apparently he's writing a novel, which he's calling Fright Night 3. And it's going to follow Charlie and Amy's story. Where and when, I'm not sure, but it's going to continue the legacy of Fright Night. So if that novel turns out to be any good, maybe we'll see, I don't know, maybe another sequel, maybe a 20, 30 years later situation, kind of how what they're doing with the new Halloween movie. I think that would be really cool. And what are they up to these days?
Well, spoiler alert, Brewster only gets cooler. So I know their Fright Night is such a popular movie, and anything Fright Night, especially if it's tied into the original Fright Night, is going to sell, and fans are going to eat it up no matter what it is. So keep your eye out on that. I am sure we'll be getting more news on that sooner rather than later. All right. I think that just about wraps it up for us on horror news. So let's go ahead and dive into some geek and comic news this week, since we didn't talk about any of that last week. All right. So, first up, we have announced, I don't know if it was announced today or yesterday, but it was announced like in the last day or so, that we're getting a special Avengers Halloween comic book that is going to be an anthology of terror tales. Yeah, that's a little bit different. I don't think they've ever quite done something like that before. I mean, we've gotten some horror stories from the comics, all of the Marvel Zombies story arcs, which have been really, really good. If you guys have not read them, I don't really want to promote anything Marvel right now because I'm mad at them.
The comic company is different.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I'm serious. The comic side of it is different. But no, I remember when I was a kid growing up, they had like X-Men versus Dracula and like some horror comics that were under the Marvel brand, like plenty of them. And I think they dabbled a little bit in the horror genre, but never, to my knowledge at least, because there's a huge gap where I wasn't really collecting. To my knowledge, they haven't really done something quite like this. And if they have, correct me. But this is kind of cool. Like I've always loved anthologies because it brings different creators together and tells different, stories with different vibes. And it's really a really interesting prospect, especially with these characters that we followed for so many years and have seen them beat down the bad guys and, pretty much follow the status quo, and this kind of takes them out of that element and makes for an interesting story, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the ordinary for them. I mean, the horror thing is a little different, but as I said, Marvel is known for doing like the Marvel zombies story arcs. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again. And
the Living Deadpool. That was a great one. Return of the Living Deadpool.
And probably their most popular one was their What If series, which they've been doing for many, many years. And basically it was alternate takes on popular story arcs. And a lot of them were really interesting to read, and some of them were really funny. So it's not out of the ordinary for them to do a fun event like this, but as far as I know, this is one of the first times we're getting a straight-up horror. Again, aside from the Marvel Zombies, which was pretty grotesque, I must say. If you had never read that, definitely check out some of the Marvel Zombies. You can get like complete collections of them for probably about $50 or $60. And it's well worth the money.
Yeah, I actually have them sitting on my shelf right behind me right now.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. I got the hardcovers.
Ah, I might have to borrow that from you one day. I want to reread them.
Yeah, man, no problem. Interesting thing about this comic issue, or this whatever it is. It's only. Is it a series? I'm not exactly sure. I know it's one issue, that's for sure. I don't know if it's going to be an ongoing thing, though.
I mean, it's 5 tales. That is a lot to throw in one issue, unless it's like a, extra thick issue.
Yeah, it could be like a giant size. That'd be interesting.
So, I mean, it's called the Avengers Halloween Special #1.
Well, the thing that's really standing out to me is the teams that they're kind of like bringing in to do it, and a couple newcomers. If you're not familiar with the name, you've seen him before. Jay Baracco. I don't know how to say his last name, but he wrote "This Is the End." He wrote The Goon, and he was in "This Is the End." He was in all of like those. What the hell's the guy's name? I'm like losing my mind today.
I don't know.
Yeah, like the 40-Year-Old Virgin movie and like that dude. The guy that made all those movies or produced them. He was basically responsible for bringing this guy to like Hollywood and fandom. He's going to be making a Marvel comic debut. We're going to have Jerry Dugan on it, who's worked previously in Deadpool, Infinity Wars, Robbie Thompson writing, and a name many people are probably going to be familiar with. Two names. Jen and Sylvia Soska, the Twisted Twins, are going to be part of this whole series.
Yep, and we brought them up last week discussing their Rabbit remake.
That we did.
So, if you guys like horror, obviously you do, because you're here right now, and you like geek shit and comic stuff, well, they're combining the two. Which is, like, perfect for this podcast.
Yeah, seriously. It was like this piece of news was tailor-made for us. Also, I was thinking of Judd Apatow. The name was just not coming out.
So, moving on. So, we got a trailer for the new Godzilla King of the Monsters. And it was very, very exciting. It didn't show a lot, but it showed just enough to be like, oh shit, and then like it was able to really build your excitement. It's like, oh, we're getting that monster. Oh, we're getting that monster too. Oh, who's that? I don't know. I don't care. You know, it was one of those. It was honestly like the kind of trailer that I wish more movies would make.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. Every feeling that I got while watching that trailer was basically the feeling I was ready to let loose when I seen the first Godzilla movie. And don't get me wrong, I was a big fan of what they did with that first Godzilla movie, because they kind of went back to the days of where what you don't see is more scary. And for the sake of Godzilla, that's not the best approach. But I thought it was interesting that they did something different. You know, like they basically held back Godzilla for majority of the movie, and you barely seen the thing until the very, very end of the film. And a lot of people were pissed off about it. But to me, it was just like, okay, that's a good way to really, really like make a point, making a friggin' firm and mean point. And I think, you know, like, dare I say, it paid off, and it's still paying off to this day, because when I watched that trailer and seeing the full unleashing of all these monsters, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so glad I didn't see these in the first. Like, I'm very, very content for that setup, you know, that they gave us in that film, and now they're going to just let loose for all monster havoc. So, sign me up. I want large monsters fighting each other in IMAX 3D as soon as possible.
Yeah, it looks like it's really going to deliver on something fans have been wanting for quite some time again. I mean, who doesn't love Godzilla doing battle with, you know, a number of other monsters in an all-out kaiju battle royal?
Pretty much. Just seeing Mothra again, like on the big screen, is it gives me chills, you know, because I grew up with a lot of the original Godzilla films. That was kind of like my way. Like a connection between my father and I, because he loved Godzilla growing up, and he kind of passed that on to me. And we'd watch all the Americanized versions and the dubbed versions and things like that. And it's really cool that they're bringing all of that stuff in, shoving it into one film, and we're going to be able to see that soon.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen that trailer yet, I urge you, go give it a watch. You'll see exactly what I mean by it shows you a lot, but it does not show you... It shows you just enough to where you get really excited. Alright, so... we got 2 new DC trailers. First trailer we're going to discuss is the Shazam trailer, which, I gotta say, movie looks like fun. DC is finally taking a route that is going to make their movies a bit more accessible. Okay, that's a lie. A lot more accessible to everybody. And it was hard for me to find anything to really bash about this trailer, because it was just, it really does look like a fun movie. And the fact that they even poke fun at the name Shazam in the trailer, I'm glad they're self-aware that is just a terrible name. Just a terrible, terrible name. But at the same point, there was no way that DC was going to be able to sell a movie called Captain Marvel when Marvel had their own Captain Marvel coming out. So I kind of understand why they went with Shazam. It's still an awful, awful name, but the trailer looks like a lot of fun.
I love that they took a jab at their own darkness in the previous movies. When the kid is talking to Billy Batson and he's saying, "Oh, you better watch out! It gets pretty Games of Thrones around here." And then there's like a beat for a second where the kid's like, "Oh shit, this is a bad Foster situation," and he's like, "Oh, I'm just messing with you." The tone immediately lightens, and I mean, we haven't really seen too much of that in any DC movies up until this point. Maybe a little bit in Wonder Woman, because they're finally pulling away from Zack Snyder's grasp. And it finally seems like they're doing what they should have done to begin with. And when this movie got announced, I'm just like, Shazam! Like they're fucking making a Shazam movie? Like, are you serious? Like, are they trying to set themselves up for failure? And to be like perfectly clear, growing up, didn't like the way the character looked, didn't really care to follow into him, and this trailer has made me a Shazam fan. Like, I'm very, very much on board. Zachary Levi is a hell of an actor, very funny, very, very well-spoken and smart. Like, I've heard him a few of his interviews on Adam Green's The Movie Crypt podcast, and it's just a perfect combination of what DC needed for their films going forward, and it's coming at the perfect time.
Yeah, DC needed a film like this desperately to bring in fans who are fleeing that sunk boat at this point. And I think this is going to win some people over. I think this is going to be a winner of a film. It looks like it's not going to take itself too seriously. And also at the same time, it doesn't look like they're making Shazam too powerful at this point. Shazam, from what I know of the character, is freaking ridiculously strong.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. I've heard he's like up there with like Superman strength and everything.
Yeah, and even more so because a lot of his power comes from magical properties, which every fanboy claims is apparently a weakness to Superman, but from everything I've seen, Superman's not really weak to anything.
Yeah, he's got infinite lives.
So yeah, no, this is actually a movie I'm looking forward to. As long as the next couple of trailers keep this movie looking pretty good, might be the first DC movie I actually go pay for and see in a theater. Typically, I wait for the DC movies to come out on DVD or get released on a movie channel or Netflix or something. It's because they just never interest me. This one actually grabbed my attention, so my hat's off to DC and WB on that one for at least.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this is going to be like that step forward that they need. Like the success that they need, and then for them to open their eyes and say, yeah, let's start putting the control into people that are willing to take it into a different direction and make it a film with identity. And, hopefully going forward, we're going to see more films like this.
I agree. This one hopefully will allow them to get their footing. So the other trailer that was released was finally the long-awaited Aquaman trailer. Or Aqua Bro, or Aqua Dude, or whatever you want to call him.
You already took the words out of my mouth.
And so the good. The good is visually the movie looks really nice. The underwater scenes look good. Looks like they got a grip on how they were gonna do that. Those looked really good. Character designs, they look pretty good. I can't complain. big sea monsters that, you know, the Atlanteans are riding. That's pretty cool. You know, they're mounting like harnesses and shit on sharks. You put a harness on a shark, I'm on board, man. Let's ride a shark.
And what a fitting of a week too.
Yeah, that's exactly. So visually, the movie does look good. Now, I've been bitten in the ass by that shit before from DC. Movies that look visually pleasing and then just throw up everywhere else on the film. Alright? So fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I'm not buying into the hype on this movie yet. Now, everything else, as far as the acting goes, acting seemed alright. I've never been a fan of Jason Momoa. I've always thought he's sort of just hacky in a way. Maybe not hacky, but just comes off hammy. Hammy's the right word.
Definitely.
So I'm not sold on just him in general. And from what I gathered from the trailer on the storyline, we're kind of working with a reverse Black Panther storyline. In Black Panther, we had T'Challa, he was king, and then he was challenged by a family member that nobody knew existed. And in Aquaman, we have Arthur Curry, who is technically the rightful king, but he's not there anymore, and then he's forced to go back to challenge his brother, Orm, for the throne. So it's fucking reverse Black Panther, alright?
Hold on. I honestly don't think that the story of the actual full film is going to rely on that too much. I have a feeling that this first trailer is a way to kind of introduce Aquaman the right way, not just what we've seen in Batman vs. Superman or Justice League, and nothing like that. This is a way to kind of introduce all these elements that were only exposition in previous films. So it's a good way to just kind of roll out that carpet, put it on in the trailer, and then hold back the main storyline, which I think is going to be the plot with was it Black Manta as the villain?
Well, I think Orm is the. I think Ocean Master is another villain. That's a massive, major Aquaman villain in the DC universe.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean everybody knows Black Manta, but everybody also knows Ocean Master. That's who Arthur Curry's brother is. That's Orm, King Orm.
Mm-hmm. But do you really want to see that kind of just get thrown away within the first film? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like a little bit of a waste. That like I would keep him around like I would keep Loki around, for example.
Listen, this is DC we're talking about, so I wouldn't put anything past them. And I mean, look how they wasted a villain like Doomsday.
Yeah, that's true.
So
hopefully they're learning from their mistakes. Well, I don't want to be quick to jump on the whole Black Panther similarities. There's going to be plenty. You're going to see plenty of them leading into the film, leading throughout the plot. I'm just more hopeful that they didn't just give away the main plot of the entire film in the trailer. I hope that's more of a way to kind of introduce things. That's my hope.
And then I have to say my biggest gripe about this trailer was the last scene in this trailer. They jumped out of a plane over what looked to be a desert. And it was just one of those, like Point Break, extreme, fucking moments. And it was just bad. It was fucking cringy bad. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what scene I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that wasn't as cringy to me as pretty much any time that Jason Momoa opened his mouth.
Well, he opened his mouth. I think he said something like, crazy redheads, and then he jumps out of the plane after. Woo, yeah! Yep. Woo, I'm so extreme, I
felt like I feel like they're going way too hard making Aquaman cool. Like everybody's got the image of the yellow shirt and green pants Aquaman, and they're just like, no, not our Aquaman. We're wiping that clean. We're not showing you how potential or what potential that Aquaman could go to. This is the badass Aquaman. He rides motorcycles and wears leather pants and doesn't look wet underwater. Oh wait. Did you see that controversy on Twitter?
Yeah, I saw it. I'm not even. I don't even care.
No.
I don't even care.
I just wanted to drop it in there. I thought that was great.
It's like, yeah, well, maybe classic Aquaman used to ride giant seahorses, but our Aquaman rides sharks. Yeah,
Sharks with motorcycles attached to them,
and laser beams attached to their head.
exactly. But honestly, like, one of my biggest gripes is a really silly gripe. The CGI on the shark, like, in the very beginning of the movie that, like, cracks the window at the aquarium. I'm just like, oh my god, that is like Fantastic Four 1 level CGI.
Now that I just brought it up, if I do not get a shark with a frickin' laser beam attached to its head in this movie, I'm going to riot. That needs to happen now. If there's a movie that ever we would get a shark with a frickin' laser beam attached to its head, it's gonna be Aquaman.
Calm down, Dr. Evil.
I feel every creature deserves a warm meal.
I don't know if that's funny or if it's just us showing our age.
So yeah, so visually, the movie does look good, and I think it's even going to look better once they finish cleaning everything up and making the CGI look all pretty. But everything else, I am pretty skeptical on, and I have more than enough reasons to feel that way. So, me seeing Shazam, that's a very strong possibility. Me spending money to go see Aquadude, yeah, it's probably not.
Like,
Probably
I want to be curious about it. I'm like tempted to see it for two reasons. One, I just want to see what an Aquaman movie looks like, and I want to support James Wan. Or James Wan rather. He's been a great filmmaker throughout his entire career. Pretty much everything that he's had his name attached to has been great, and he's just been progressing with each film. So, like, good for him that he's finally taken on. Like, he's done a Fast and the Furious movie, but I never really got into that series. But like, it's cool to see him step into the big leagues, if you will. I had my buddy meet like him for me at a convention back during Saw 2, and he was like so cool to sign a poster for me. I was sick and I couldn't make it myself, so like him and Leigh Whannell signed a poster for me and everything. And I have memories of him being humble and all that at Angoria's Weekend of Horrors over in New York City, and now he's directing a fucking huge budget movie. It's really cool to see that progression.
Right now, my biggest, my biggest, I guess, what I'm looking forward to the most for Aquaman is seeing exactly how much they give Willem Dafoe to work with. I'm kind of curious about his role in this movie, as
Dafoe, he doesn't really need much to work with. Like, he is a tremendous actor.
I know, and that's the only reason why I'm like even pseudo interested in this movie. It's like I've never liked Aquaman. I didn't even really know much about Aquaman. I was always a Namor fan. Fucking you read some Submariner comics, and then you're like, oh, DC's got a Submariner. And it's Aquaman, and he rides seahorses. All right, I'm going back to the Submariner. He just pisses everybody off and just doesn't give a shit. He's like underwater Deadpool.
Oh, that's a first for me. I've never heard somebody describe that.
Yeah, the Submariner is the biggest asshole in the Marvel universe. Like, this guy will just do whatever the fuck pleases him. He just out of spite, he flooded Wakanda.
He is a big asshole, I'll say that.
Just to piss off Black Panther, he was like, fuck you, and I'm flooding Wakanda. awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Submariner movie. That'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. There's rumors floating around here, rumors floating around there. I think it's Universal who owns those film rights, though, for some reason.
Speaking of film rights, I didn't put it in the news, but like Comcast dropped out of the bid last week.
I would be excited if I wasn't mad at Marvel.
Yeah, man, and we're about to get to that in a couple minutes.
So moving on, any of you guys are fans of Adult Swim on Cartoon Network? You probably know Metalocalypse and Space Ghost Coast to Coast and a couple of other things. Well, it saddens me to have to, say this, but after a massive stroke, Jon Scnepp passed away a couple days ago. He directed most of the episodes of Metalocalypse, and if you don't know what Metalocalypse is, it is a TV show that follows the biggest band in the world, Death Clock, and they're just these crazy death metal, pseudo black metal, pseudo thrash metal. It's just this crazy mixture of metal, and they just have the most ridiculous adventures. And he was an editor and producer on a ton of other shows. Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Director of The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. Co-director for the Upright Citizens Brigade, which, unless you're our age, you're really not going to know what that show was on Comedy Central, but it was a funny-ass show. And a bunch of other things. The guy was just really, really talented, had a great eye, and he is definitely going to be missed in the world of geekiness.
Yeah, well said, man. It always rubs me the wrong way when things like this happen, and I know that seems silly to say, but it just, with so much shit going on in the world and bad stuff and terrible people, and why you gotta take one of the good ones? You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say, like, let's trade him back or something like that for a shitty person, but at the same time, this hits us real close to home because it was one of us, essentially. One of the people that grew up passionate about the stuff that we're sitting around here talking about tonight, and he made a career out of it. He started as an extra in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and worked his way up in various roles, whether they be small acting bits or editors, directors, voice acting, or just being part of like an internet related show. He's had a very, very varied career, and like if you've ever watched him on any of the shows, like he's big. He was like contributed to Collider and things like that, and even in his documentary, the Death and Return of or the Death of Superman Lives, rather. He just seems like such a good person, and like somebody that you would be able to hang out with or sit down and have a podcast discussion with or anything like that. It just, to me, it bothers me that like somebody so talented was taken so soon, and it's an absolute shame. So my heart goes out to his family, his wife, and anybody infected by this. We're all hurting over it, and hopefully he's in a better place.
Yeah, gone, but definitely never forgotten. He has given us a lot of great shows, great episodes, great series, and that shit will live on. So he's got quite a legacy behind him. So rest in peace, buddy.
Cheers.
All right, so on that somber note, moving on to tonight's main discussion, and I don't know if it's a weighted return, but the return of the Pressure Rising segment.
to watch you, all I ever do is cry and do my best to kill you because all of you must die. And although I created you, I have always hated you. Fuck this place.
All right. I really didn't want to talk a whole lot about this, but Mungus wanted to put it on this week's episode, and I'm not surprised. I've been pretty vocal about it on Twitter, and it's honestly to the point where I don't want to really support anything Marvel or Disney or anything of the sort because of this. And I know what Mungus is gonna say, and yeah, I get it. Maybe that's true, but you know what? At the end of the day, they're all still under that same umbrella. And we are, of course, talking about the just awful firing of James Gunn.
Yeah.
If you have not been following this news, a piece of shit blogger, I don't know, what would you call Cernovich?
Troll, hypocrites, somebody with way too much time on his hands.
He's a big right-winger, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a part of the alt-right movement. Surprised he found somebody to fuck, let alone marry. I could go on.
Yeah, the massive alt-right winger. He's just a horrible, scummy piece of shit named Cernovich. And he dug around a decade. He went back a decade to find some tweets from James Gunn. Now, James Gunn got his career from Trauma. If you don't know who Trauma is, they're probably one of the most offensive, disgusting movie and film companies out there. There's no line that Trauma will not cross. If it's offensive to anybody, Trauma will do it and they will put it in a movie. Now, this is where James Gunn got his start. And James Gunn, he tweeted out some tasteless things about pedophilia and about rape. You know, things that anybody would regret tweeting out. You know, stupid things. We all have done it.
Also, things of the era too. Like, I want to make that clear. Back, like, I guess he would fall into like that sort of age group where he grew up on 80s comedy and 70s like no hold back comedy. So, of course, as we progressed through the 70s, through the 80s and the 90s, comedy shifted into, well, if George Carlin and Richard Pryor could say this and get away with it, well, I'm going to push the envelope even more and see how more fucked up. You know, like Gunn was a aspiring filmmaker, comedian, a stand-up comedian, and a slew of other things, to be honest. So he's of that school where, you know, like pushing that envelope and really, really getting people feeling uncomfortable. That was the kind of humor that he was always kind of, I guess, pushing. You know, like that was the way that he got his foot into the door with Trauma, and no doubt what he learned off of Trauma, more so. And, you know, Twitter came and it made a new platform for that kind of tasteless and probably overly wrong humor for the time.
And you know what? I'm getting sick of good people getting taken down because of long ago Twitter posts or social media posts of any kind. And James Gunn is one of the good people out there who does not deserve this. And when this happened, it immediately reminded me of when, again, I will bring him up, Gilbert Gottfried made a tsunami joke and then was immediately fired from Aflac. Now, it was a funny, albeit a little tasteless, but again, this is Gilbert fucking Gottfried, alright? The most tasteless comedian ever. I mean, he makes fucking Andrew Dice Clay look like the cleanest comedian who's ever fucking performed. And he gets fired because he makes a tasteless joke about a tragedy. If you don't realize that this dude's a comedian and this is what he does, then you should have never have hired him in the first place. And then this is the same situation. James Gunn gets his start on fucking Troma, one of the most filthiest fucking film companies out there. And then you're going to take out of context, at least at this point, out of context tweets from a decade ago and fire the guy over him? Really? And of all people from it to come from, it's Cernovich? Have you ever gone back and looked at some of the shit he's posted on his timeline? You ever go back and look at some of the videos he's made? Oh, that dude is far from a saint. One of the most racist people I've ever seen. Just an absolute scumbag on every single level. And the fact that he got someone as talented and loved as James Gunn taken down is absolutely sickening. And on one side of this shitstorm right now, I can see how Disney and Marvel sort of were in a panic. You know, this stuff came out. Oh my God, I can't believe he said these things. We can't let this fester. We gotta make a statement. And they made their statement, and they, as I've been saying on Twitter, a knee-jerk reaction, fired him. I sort of get that. It was, it was PR control, really. I can't blame them for that. So while they were saving face at that point, trying to make right, what they should be doing, and what I'm hoping they are doing, is sort of looking into these tweets, looking back to where was James Gunn in 2008, 2009, you know? Again, coming from Troma, making some horribly disgusting movies, you know, coming off a movie like Slither, making a horribly inappropriate movie, but fantastic movie. If you have not seen it, see it. Super. But it is quite inappropriate. You know, they go back and they're looking at what this guy was doing, where he was in 2009, and then they might sort of see where, yeah, these jokes were tasteless, but it kind of made sense coming from him. You know, this guy isn't a rapist. He's not sitting there condoning rape. He's not promoting it. He's not advocating it. You know, he's not enabling it. And the pedophilia joke, I get it. It's tasteless. You know, they're not good jokes looking at them now, but you don't know exactly what the context of this shit was 10 years ago. You can't possibly do that.
Not to mention, it's comedy is throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And offensive comedy is seeing how big of a rise you can get out of people. And that progression of that rise has gone, like, by 2009 had pretty much reached this point and probably hit a bubbling point, and that's why everything came crashing down the way it did, as far as you know, the zero tolerance for offensive humor and things like that. You know, we reached that point where it was just way too much, and people started saying, yeah, okay, this is ridiculous. You guys need to fucking take it down a notch. But back then it was a different sort of situation, and I agree with Bates on this. It's one of those things that are tasteless. It's disgusting. They were not appropriate. However, here's what rubs me the wrong way. Two things real quick. One, during Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't recall if it was the making of it or if it was after the release, James Gunn had to answer about these tweets before. He has a blog posts that are, I don't know if they're still online or if you could get to them excuse me, by the you know, like, I forget what it's called, where you could see the older websites, the older versions of the websites, but you could get to him and find his statement on people that question these things prior. Okay, Disney hired him full on knowing this situation, full on dealing with this situation in its time and did nothing of the sort. You know, I'm sure they may have had maybe an internal talk with him and saying, hey, can't do that shit now that you're working for the mouse. However, why is it such a fucking issue now when a bunch of right-wing jackoffs decide, oh, he's been consistently and aggressively talking shit about the current administration? And I'm not making this political or anything because, you know, we're not that type of show. But he has every right to do so. And these people getting angry about the situation and digging up dirt that is long irrelevant. And then forming this sort of takedown squad and sending it to anybody who would fucking listen and creating a firestorm out of it. It's not fucking right, fair, tactful. It's creating a false narrative of nothing. Something that's already been put out there, already been slapped on the hand or scolded, or he faced whatever freaking backlash once before. Why does this dude have to lose his job over it? And a lot of people are going to bring up the Roseanne situation, and that's the new hot button thing where I don't even know the fucking politician's name, but he's really pushing the whole Roseanne narrative as well as Roseanne herself. Difference is James Gunn hasn't been a consistently racist pile of shit for his entire career. He hasn't been a sexist or somebody that really talks about pedophilia, despite this narrative of him deleting thousands of tweets that all these other idiots believe. Who deletes thousands of tweets of pedophilia jokes? Who has time for thousands of pedophilia jokes? Like, how do you even fucking believe this shit? In any case, this whole Roseanne thing is not even like a discussion point as far as I'm concerned, and it's flat out absurd that we've reached a point where we as a society are so dumbed down that we can't see the difference in this. And I'm just glad that people are actually saying, hey, and looking at the facts and saying, hey, you know, enough is enough. This is absurd. What this situation has turned into, what this situation started out and became. And, you know, we need to do something about it. So there's petitions going around. There's articles coming out daily. And like you said earlier, I'm hoping that Disney's trying to figure a way to fix this. I don't know if James Gunn will accept it if they hire him back. But it's not a good situation. It's really aggravating that just because of somebody's political alignment, they're going to create a shitstorm, you know, for this man's life. And this isn't about movies. This isn't about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It's about somebody's you know, his career, as well as his
livelihood.
Exactly, his livelihood and who he is as a person. You know, somebody that has apologized for these previous mistakes before countless times, and then turned around and bettered his life and got away from that immature shtick that he I guess became popular with growing in Hollywood. And we're at that point where you're punishing a man that's already paid the price and has progressed. And for what? Just because he talks shit about the president or, you know, the administration? And like, get a fucking life. Go find something a bit better to do with your powers.
So, what you can do to help? Well, first of all, if you ever run into Cernovich out in the streets, you can do me a favor. While I normally don't condone violence, kick him in his fucking shin for me.
Dead Entertainment does not endorse this message.
Just kick him in the shin, alright? You can sign this petition going around. It's probably not going to help, but it's something. We've reached over 300,000 signatures to rehire James Gunn. So go ahead, add your name to the petition. We want this man back.
Petitions are worthless for the most part. However, raising awareness is the absolute goal for this thing. And as long as people keep pumping out articles about it and keep talking about it, and you know what? Investing in the situation. You know, like, sit down and talk these things out. Stop taking a keyboard warrior stance and stop taking a knee-jerk reaction to everything. How about you sit there and analyze, like what was actually said, analyze the people that you were 10 years ago and before, and see what the situation is. Like realize that you aren't a fucking saint yourself, and know that people change. We all have said things and done things that we regret, and this is probably one that he hugely regrets. But make a dialogue, form a conversation, and start pounding the pavement. I guess try to do something about this, because it's absurd to me.
And Gunn has got the respect, love, and support of all of his actors. Dave Bautista has been extremely vocal in support of James. His tweets have been really powerful, and the support he's been showing has been unreal. Same with Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana. Bobcat Goldthwait, one of my favorite people.
Are you going to read that message, because it's incredible?
Yeah, he is he had some choice words for Disney. Michael Rooker left Twitter over this. There's a lot of support out there. As I said before, I get it. Marvel, Disney had to react. They had to do something. They couldn't just be like, oh, this news came out, and you know what, we'll ignore it. That would have created a bigger shitstorm than we have right now. Trust me on that one. So they had to react. I do not blame them for that. I am not mad at them for their initial reaction. Yes, again, it was a knee-jerk reaction, but it was necessary for them to sort of take a step back, give themselves a little bit of time to look at the situation. Now, it is very, very possible that's exactly what they're doing. They're looking at it. Maybe they've already contacted James and said, listen, we had to do this on our part for PR purposes. And anybody in the film industry and film business would understand that, especially a powerhouse like Disney and Marvel. So it is very possible that Kevin Feige has already reached out to James Gunn and explained that to him. And I wouldn't be surprised if James understands completely. And I have no proof on any of this. This is just a theory. And they might have even told James, listen, we're going to bring you back. But we needed to do this just to sort things out before this spiraled out of control. And maybe they are finding a way to properly address this situation and bring James back. As far as I know, James has been pretty silent on the situation, and that might be by choice because he knows what's going to happen. He knows the end result. So instead of him doing a knee-jerk reaction and saying something he may regret, he's remaining quiet because he knows how this script is going to end. Again, I have no proof, but it is definitely how the inner workings of a massive conglomerate like Disney and Marvel, that's how they would work behind the scenes. Do damage control, but know the end game. Again,
he wasn't silent on the situation itself, though. He did make 2 statements, I think. I know one that's on Twitter. I could have sworn he elaborated slightly, but it was extremely genuine. It wasn't a typical celebrity apology. It was more of an explanation of the journey in growing up, essentially. Like how we all reach that one point where we do stupid shit, and then we eventually grow out of it and become the men we are today, men and women we are today. And, it says what it says, read it and judge it for yourself.
Yeah, again, I mean, if you're not overly familiar with James Gunn before the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, go back, watch Slither, his film from 2006, and you'll kind of get an idea of where this dude came from.
Don't worry, you're not gonna see like ridiculous pedophile jokes. You're gonna see a man that's just trying different types of humor, of like very schlocky, exploitative type of gore movies, and just he's got another good example, Romeo and Juliet. So I mean, check that out, and you'll understand fully. Romeo and Juliet, Super, like you said, and Slither.
And he was a writer for the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah, exactly. And I know films and writing doesn't necessarily reflect the person that he is, but like if you followed his career within the last five years on Facebook, Twitter, his videos, his interviews, you'll get a full-on understanding of the type of person he is, at least the type of person he presents himself to be, and it's not nowhere near as bad as his fucking actual rapey guy is claiming, and his goons.
Yeah. It's an awful situation. I'm hoping that it sorts itself out. There's a lot at stake here. And again, a man's career and a man's livelihood is at stake. And it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't. All because of one scummy piece of shit. Karma is a bitch. All I'm gonna say, man.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I need a drink now.
Yeah, those pressurizing segments always kind of make us need a drink.
Alright, guys. That is it for us tonight. This episode went long, but I am blaming it on the Scream Factory segment.
Yeah, that went on forever. Sorry, guys.
But thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button. And you could also follow both of us over on Twitter at Bates_MotelMT and at Ray Mungus. You can also follow Dead Entertainment at DeadEntSite. You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/deadentertainment. As I said, we will give everybody an update in the next day or two about what is going on for the next live commentary. The movie is House Shark.
House Shark.
Whatever that is. So, I can guarantee you it is not going to be this Friday. If it happens this week, it will be a Saturday afternoon movie. Remember when TV stations used to do that? What was it?
Yes.
Like the Channel 11 afternoon movie, you know?
Yeah, I miss those days. It was really weird when that change happened too, because they just stopped. Like it was like, or they would do it every couple of weeks, and I don't know, it was weird. I miss it.
So yeah, we'll be doing, if we do it this week, it'll be a Saturday afternoon movie. I'm not sure what time. I would think anywhere from 12 to 3 o'clock. Right in that time frame. But once we know, we definitely will let you guys know. Make sure you visit deadentertainment.com for all of your horror geek, well, some geek, and Shark Week news. As I said, I got a couple of Shark Week articles up, and I'm working on a few other pieces. I'm going to get my article out soon. I'm working on a pretty fun hot take opinion piece. And I might be writing a review for a movie I watched the other night, Mohawk. If you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But I will dive into that more when I actually write the review for it. What about you? You working on any pieces?
I'm supposed to be. I named a handful of them in our chat, but the weekend got away from me, and excuse. Like the pieces that I named were news pieces. I want to do something a little more. But what I can say is that I'm in the early works of planning our entire month of October event, and it's going to be kind of fun. It's going to be really interesting. Me and Chris are brainstorming how we can make this event work on the website. Coding is involved and all this fancy, crazy shit, and as well as kind of like getting in touch with some vendors from the horror cons and the internet world. So if you were a vendor and want to donate something to a thing for October, hit us up, because seriously, we have some really cool shit cooking, and October is going to be fun.
Interesting. I don't know anything what he's talking about. I have not been privy to any of this, so...
This was a conversation like 2 days ago, and we're working on a couple things. Some things are going to be fun.
Oh, was it in our chat?
No, just in person with my brother.
Oh, because I was about to say, I could have easily missed it. I mean, I can go an hour without looking at our chat, and there's 65 messages, and, 60 of them are Jeff Goldblum gifts.
They really are. That's how I felt the other day. I was like swamped with work. I was just beaten and bloodied, and I'd sit down in the break room and I open my phone and there's like 200 messages, and I'm like, what have you guys been talking about all morning?
So, all right, so that's something pretty cool to look forward to. And I don't know if I think we had a couple pieces coming out tomorrow. I forget what though.
Yeah, I know we have a few things in the works within the next week or so. I'm gonna keep the lid on those, but keep checking out the website. Next week's podcast, I'm gonna make a little more fun because we got a little angry there at the end of this one. So we're not always gonna get controversial or hit these hot button topics, but when they affect like the things that we love and our perception of a person that we respect, and when we see the situation fold out the way it does, we don't want to remain silent about it, especially in the midst of trying to get the word out to try to correct this.
Very, very true. All right, guys, so one more time, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. This episode went a little long, but we had reason to go long tonight. So make sure you check out all of our social media spots, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we will see you all next week. Thank you, guys. And remember...
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.